Alright, what's up? So if you've seen any of my past videos, you've probably heard me talk a lot about global monsters, why they're important, setups that use them, when you can use a global monster. So I thought for this video, I'd just talk a little bit about what I consider to be global monsters. So to start off, I think that a global monster is a monster that is able to affect the map regardless of the position they're placed in, right? I think that, monsters who have abilities that can damage the entire map regardless of the row they're placed in, monsters who have abilities or attacks that are able to hit regardless of its range limits, right? An example of this is Felina and Amaterasu. Both of these have pretty short range, right? But their abilities are capable of hitting the entire map and doing global damage, right? They are able to damage the entire map with their ability, despite their immediate attack range not being that much. Another example of this is abilities that just say all enemies are affected, right? For example, Slime King, he is able to stun and damage all enemies on the screen, regardless of the enemy's position, regardless of his position. He can use the ability even when enemies are not in his immediate range to be able to do damage and apply a stun. Similar sort of situation with Archimedes. Archimedes as well as Archimedes are both able to freeze enemies, all enemies on the screen. And if you do have Archimedes evolved into Archimedes, she's also able to damage enemies as well. Crispy also follows this sort of idea of being able to do damage to enemies from any part of the map. He can summon volcanoes, or ground cracks and burns as it's called here, to be able to damage enemies from any point in the map. And I think these are going to be the best monsters that are able to clearly define what a global effect is, right? To be able to impact the map from anywhere, to be able to impact many if not all enemies from anywhere, and to be able to have a strong effect outside of their immediate range. I think monsters that are a little bit weaker with this definition would be something like Jiraiya, right? Jiraiya is not actually able to affect anything outside of his range, but his range is so massive that it just hits everything anyways, right? If I were to put him up here in the mid row, or especially in the front row, he would be hitting enemies that are off the screen. This is why Jiraiya is so important for farming setups, is because despite his ability and his attacks being limited to his range is so massive that it really doesn't matter anyways, right? Especially with the fact that his attack is multi-target, and it will move past his range, right? His range is just what he'll target on, but his attack goes past his range. So I think Jiraiya is a pretty decent example of what could be considered as a global damage monster as well, a global effect monster. I think monsters that I guess can be considered as global monsters but don't really fit the definition that well. Something like Ra could impact all of your monsters but not the enemies, depending on where he's placed on the map. So he is able to have a strong effect even when he's not attacking enemies. But I think I guess I'm a little bit uncertain about where Ra fits into this, but I guess he can be considered a global effect monster because he is able to give you a pretty beneficial effect on the map, despite him not being in immediate range of enemies. You just have to put him in the center of the map or in a place where he is positively affecting your setup. Finally, here you got Susanoo. Susanoo doesn't really affect the enemies with the ability. Instead, Susanoo affects rocks. But Susanoo is able to affect rocks from anywhere on the map. Probably won't get to show it off here just because, with all these global monsters, enemies won't really be getting to the rocks anyways. But Susanoo is able to impact your setup from anywhere on the map, give an immediate impact, regardless of the positioning. So yeah, these are the sorts of monsters that I really consider to be global monsters, right? Monsters that can really have that immediate impact on the map, regardless of where they're placed. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Been getting questions about this in the comments. Thought it'd be pretty useful to go over this just to really show what I was saying when I say global monsters. That's gonna be it. Like, subscribe, and yeah, see ya.